In the year 1997, the future is in chaos and turmoil. Mankind is on the brink of extinction. Brave survivors band together and build a time displacement apparatus to receive a signal from a parallel future. This transmission is the Vundacast.
Welcome to the Vundacast, the official podcast of Vundablog.com, the home of, yes, we're still doing Unnamed Footage Festival coverage. Tis I, your host, Steven, and with me today, I am so happy to be joined by the filmmaker behind the very twisted and grainy and wonderful film Bum, Anthony Leroy. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm good, dude. I'm surviving. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So both Anthony and I got a chance to have our film screen at Unnamed Footage Festival. You didn't make it there physically, right?
No,
No.
there were circumstances.
No, I'm sure. But so did you watch some of the films from home and stuff and partake
A
that way?
few of them I saw prior to, and I haven't seen anything from there except for like the Ruck March and Souvenir because they went on Found TV. Um, but I think that those are the only ones that I actually got to see so far.
Yeah. So yeah, the Rook March was really awesome. We had fun interviewing Michael Rock about that. But Bum is still doing its thing in the festival circuit and is going to be playing in the Brunswick Underground Film Festival in Down Under in Australia. And if you're in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, you can catch Anthony's film at the Redfern Reaper Fest this summer. So that's super hype. So Anthony made a very twisted 40-minute uh a seemingly shot on VHS or VHS-C or HDVC. What is it legit shot on the formats that we're
Oh
emulating?
yeah, it's legitimately shot on VHS-C. It's a Panasonic Palm Quarter PVA 306. I just picked it up and I really loved the look of it compared to like the shoulder cam VHS that kind of like I was shooting with throughout my youth. It just doesn't have as much detail that I find the VHS-C does. But then also at the same time, I like to manipulate how much information you can get from tape to be a super like vibrant kind of movie that's blowing through the screen. That's what my goal was, anyways.
So one of the things that I think strikes anybody upon watching Bum is just how colorful the film is, both in like dialogue and in like visual aesthetic. Like there's something that is like I'm a comic book nerd, so my mind I see bright colors and I think of comic books, especially with the reporter having sort of like an April O'Neil-esque
Right.
look to her that totally got me in the spirit. um what what inspires like the pre-production of putting this thing together, like
For a long time, I spent about 2 years making a 10-minute short film that I felt like very insecure during the process of. Like I just like would talk myself out of doing what I actually wanted to do, thinking that I couldn't do it. And after we finished that film, and I watched it over, I wasn't particularly happy with the end product. So I went back to the drawing board and said, what if I just like, I need to make something that is screaming out of me, and I can't say no to any of the ideas that I'm going to have. Like, I just want to really make it as raw and intentional as possible. So I just sat down and then I started like stripping away at myself, trying to conjure some characters that I could put through a hellscape. And then like while also implementing some of my humor and like, really dark humor, but like stupid humor. And for me, I was like, I got to really focus on my characters and then just like create characters that stand out, that feel like exciting when you're watching it, because I find a lot in modern media, I'm not seeing that kind of characterizations happen too much anymore. And I'm a big fan of 70s and 90s and 80s films. And I think like when I watch those movies, I'm like, damn, these characters are just like jumping out of the movie, and I'm thinking about them and what they're saying and stuff like that. So I just wanted to replicate that kind of golden age with my writing.
Yeah, they're sort of like the I don't know if you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, but he has like his movies that are like movies, and they're like the like normal movies. You know what I mean? That like
Yeah.
extract like, the extra heightened reality. You know what I mean? Like Kill
Yeah,
Bill, like
precisely.
that like
Yeah.
extra heightened reality, and that's totally a vibe I got off on in Bum. Uh, so what's the like budgeting process like? Are you making it like over a lot of several weekends? Is it like building up to one big shoot? Like how did you plan?
Yeah, the bulk of it we shot in 4 days. Um, because I think with found footage, it's a lot different staging wise than if you're shooting something traditionally, like setting up lights and doing all these things. We wanted to make it as practical as possible, so we spent a lot of time um, just like breathing the character in and ad-libbing on top of what was written as well, just to give it a little extra flair. The 4 days were like super smooth. Everything pretty much went exactly to plan. And then I realized after seeing it in completion, the ending just didn't hit for me. And I was like, well, I felt that maybe I was like talking myself out of something again. So I went back and I said, how can I maximize the movie by like creating a sort of second climax and bringing in these other characters who originally the Jim Lackey character was just mentioned that of like what of his actions. But then I was like, okay, maybe I should do like a. It just kind of revitalized the project where I said, okay, if I cast someone as Jim Lackey and I shoot this kind of like satirical political video at the beginning, and then bring him back in at the end for the third act as like you know the main quintessential villain above the others, then I think that that would be like an exciting finale. And then therefore the dialogue wasn't just a throwaway line about a character who never showed up.
Whoa, you like Star Wars The Phantom Menace it. No, I invented Chancellor Valorum. Now I gotta use Chancellor Valorum. This is crazy.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a great way to structure the movie. I thought it's a great bookend to the
Mhm.
story that, he is really responsible. He propels the need of the plot of making it like a big, spectacle and everything.
Yeah.
That was super dope. So is it how many cooks does it take to make the stew? Like how many people do you have on set? Do you have someone like helping out with audio, or is it just,
Well, yeah, we
cooking?
have the character Bev who is like the sound girl. And when she's not on, we would have like someone else running um, boom, which alternated between whoever was there or not. But typically, the first night we had my me, I was gonna say my character, but me, uh, Valerie Charles, Bev, this cameraman, and then we had one other guy, and that was like, I don't think our set got too big until the third day was like our big effects day with the third act, which then we had more people on set. We probably had around 7 or 8 people, but never more than that. If anything, we kept it very like whoever you saw in the movie was who was there essentially.
Well, so like shooting outside, whenever I've done it, is like always like a headache with like sound and with like the noises of nature. And like, one of the things that, gives away a lot of, independent films for being low budget is like the audio quality. And I think your audio was like, superb in this movie, especially for how much of it is in, environments that you can't completely control.
Yeah,
But
that's thank you.
the trick with that,
Um,
man.
so I have two phenomenal sound designers that are dear friends of mine. Uh, they do my compositions and they also do the sound design. And I really wanted to put a lot of care into it because it is a found footage movie. And with found footage, I find that audio matters even more than visuals sometimes because you could shake your camera around, and nobody knows what they're looking at. But if you have really immersive sound design that is kind of like loud and terrifying, even if you can't see it, your imagination will at least fill in the blanks a lot of the time, which for better or worse is kind of like um, one of the main things about found footage. So I have Brandon McKagan and Garrett Dumoulin, and basically like we had a I told Gary like, hey man, we got to make a thrash song. He would make the thrash song, send it to me. I put my vocals on it, send it back to him. Then he'd mix it. Then I'd send it to Brandon, and Brandon would mix it in the movie. Like when I'm driving in the car, there's like music in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
So we like made a bunch of the music for it as well. And then we also got some banging tunes from Barry J. Gillis, the Canadian legend.
So you guys an all Canadian team?
Everyone but Brandon. Brandon is in the States, but we are all yeah, we're all Canadian.
Wow, that's badass, man. Um, Also, I love like I'm a big Canada file since I'm a Kevin Smith nerd. I just became a Canada file, and like opening the movie with like the Canadian flag waving, you know what I mean, and like a propaganda way was like such a fun disarming way to open the movie. Um, so when you're having this 4-day shoot outdoors. You have, 5 to 8 people depending on the day. How do you manage time? How do you manage food? Like, how are you dividing the resources here? Because it sounds like the budget's going up. The more you talk about it, the more the budget sounds like it's going up.
I think we only really spent around like we spent $1,000 on Valerie Charles' suit that Leia, who played Valerie Charles, made herself. And then we just like paid for her time and the fabric and stuff like that. Um, and then I think the rest mostly went to the effects. But I don't think we spent more than $1,500 Canadian on
Whoa.
on most of like a lot of the props were reused, um, and a lot of things like from other projects I had already. So like I just brought those in again. Um, but yeah, like we went pretty by the script. We went pretty hard there from page one onward, and then it was like, okay, we're at effects night, so let's shoot the other stuff we don't need to do, and then on effects night we'll come back and hit it hard, and then
Okay. So you filmed like everything before effects night, and then effects night was just like the pickups and the really complicated stuff.
Yeah, because most of the stuff was just like dialogue and staging of our characters.
Uh-huh.
But the movie originally started on the highway, but I thought that my character was so funny that I said I got to spend more time with this asshole.
I need 20 more minutes with myself, please.
Yeah, it's awful. The male ego, it's so fragile.
This is your canvas, enjoy your I rather you create something that you at least enjoyed, even if you even think that you made it too long, like at least you enjoyed it as opposed to something that, you produced and you didn't have the
Yeah,
enjoyment,
because
you know.
right, no, exactly. The movie was originally 49 minutes, and then we're trying to get some grants for my first feature. So according to the Academy, 40 minutes can count as a feature. So I cut it down to 39 minutes
Aha.
uh, to save myself a bit. But the movie is still like it's a long setup. I know, it's like a hangout movie, but the characters are so despicable. Hanging out with them is just like a heart, probably more of a nightmare than what happens in the third act. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was like really funny to have this like ad-libbing immersion because originally, yeah, the script started on the highway, but then once we went back, we are like, oh, I wanted to experiment with ad-libbing, where if the movie started with ad-libbing and um, something like that, once it gets to the scripted points, people won't notice the difference, which I think kind of worked. But
No, it all feels like, the same type of, like I wouldn't be able to discern what is ad-libbed and what isn't. Especially once the cops show up,
right,
and I could hear, your voice like speaking through those characters too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they have like the same language a little bit.
it's a hell world, it's an anti-reality. It's just like everything is really elevated to the point that like being it can't be any more over the top in terms of its delivery or dialogue. And I feel like I really love like world building in film, and I really wanted to create this very strange world that just didn't make sense, and then place these characters in it. And then that way we could like kind of get away with whatever we want because you know nobody's a good person, not really in this movie. And all the cop stuff was also like ad-libbed as well.
Okay.
um Very, very fun night shooting that.
Is that a case where you're like behind the camera and you're like feeding lines and you guys are going
Yeah,
back and
you
forth and stuff?
yeah, because I shot all the cop stuff. Like my friend Josh, who plays the cameraman, he shot like a majority of the movie, but all the cop stuff at the end I shot. And I would just like tell, oh yeah, say this, say this, say this kind of thing, and then we just run from there essentially.
So once you have all the okay, oh, I was listening to some other interviews you were doing, and you mentioned that two cameras were sacrificed to the god of
So
cinema to create this film.
that's right. Yeah, it was. It's nature of the beast, really. Because we're pretty like down and dirty when we're shooting, and we're abusing these cameras, um, in front of and behind the camera. And yeah, one got covered with like the skeleton vomit, and then it got hit with the axe, and then after that it was just like completely overexposed, and I could not fix that at all. Um, so we had to switch tapes and then shoot on a different camera that my friend luckily had. Um, and then the second one, I drowned it in the river when the cameraman character is getting chased by the vagrant into the water. I thought I had my footing on a rock, but as soon as I put my foot down, the rock just slipped and I dunked my camera. I got the tape out, but the camera was pooched.
So the footage in the movie is from cameras that died. So is any of that
Yeah.
like distortion in the movie like authentic from those things, or is all of the distortion?
Oh, so like all the glitches are real like tape glitches from transferring from tape to digital. And sometimes when you're like if when I'm transferring from tape to digital, sometimes I'll like pull out the video cable, or I'll like hit the camera, and
Oh,
now even and then it will like actually like glitch, or things will like look strange. And then I basically manipulate the footage by taking those glitches and then changing the placement of them in the footage. So then I can use that as transitional pieces to go from footage, like picture to picture kind of thing.
so you're like playing your camera as like a bongo, trying to create some like distortion to add to the horror.
Exactly.
Is the visual I'm getting here.
But also the other thing too is that those cameras are not meant to be shaken around. So whenever you start moving, like if I'm turning fast, it's gonna glitch no matter what. Like so some of those I could not help. They were just in there, you know. I couldn't change that.
That's that it it all, just throws you deeper into the world. And there's one specific shot where you're like going into the reporter's face and she's like talking basically her master plan or whatever about how she's gonna be successful, and there's like this distortion happening on her face that's like almost like diabolical, that is like so cool. Is that
That one's manipulated. That one is I
color
think if it
playing
so
with the
basically what I did was I overlaid the same image on top of each other
uh-huh.
the same way. And then I can't remember what I did to change it, but basically it was just like stacked imagery, and it looked so disturbing. Actually, I had it off of her face more, and when her faces came together, it looked truly disturbing. But I couldn't keep it because it was just too distracting. And I screenshotted it. I kept those pictures, but I'll
that
return to an effect like that later on, I think.
that's one of my favorite shots in the whole movie, and like I would build a whole movie just around that concept of the video distortion or whatever. It's so cool, so cool. Let's
Thank
get
you.
into some spoilers now. Spoilers, spoilers. These are the spoilers. Spoilers. So I think the biggest spoiler, and like to me the biggest selling point for this movie, like when I was telling my friend Derek about this movie that made them want to see it, was like, yo, you gotta see this crazy mutated bum's dick. You know what I mean? Like that is like the not necessarily the highlight of the movie, but it's just such an outrageous moment that like it's seared into your brain. If you're not gonna remember, if you're gonna smoke away all the memories of this movie, that one is like seared into your cerebral cortex, no matter how hard you try. Where did that is that based on a real fear you have or a real experience that happened? Huh?
um You may be onto something, Steve. No, basically, like when I was writing the movie, um, my process for writing characters is that I write a character as far as I can, and then that's it. Sayonara. If I can't write them out of a situation, or I don't believe that they can get out of it, that's where they will die, which happens to my character in the movie as well. Um, Now, prior to me entering the vagrant lair, when I find the remnants of the burned down homeless camp, I'm pissing on all their stuff. I'm urinating on all of it. And when I go in to the thing and I get killed, I get urinated on back by this
The
giant dong.
It's karmic. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think like we had it was a strap-on sleeve, and I was looking for that, and I was like, oh, I found this one that's like very like realistic, and that's the one we have to get. So we spent a good half an hour trying to cut open the urethra and stick a tube in there that we could pour the urine, which was pineapple juice, and we put
Wow.
fake blood in the tube as well. And so for that scene, it was like I'm looking at this image and it's so awful. It's so awful. We couldn't stop laughing when we were getting this picture. Like it's just like no one will forget that when they see it. That's like a really big that was a really big moment for the movie, I think, as well. Just the shock, like, oh, are they going there? Oh, they went there. It's like how much worse can it get?
And then that's the first like horrible thing that happens. It like opens the door for like your imagination to run wild with how twisted things can get. And you satisfy, with all the gore, with like, the puking skeleton, and the burning baby in the mutant freaking freak family, or at least commune, or whatever they've become. It all, and then ultimately the wonderful halving of the reporter getting totally cleaved in two is also just like insanely memorable. What went into the cleaving in two effect?
That required the most work, um, because I knew I always wanted to do a shot like that, like a gore shot like that. And I knew that I couldn't pull it off if I saw it from the face. But if I saw it from the back, I knew that I would be able to. So I brought this concept to my effects artist, Genevieve, and who's amazing. And basically, what I did was, you know, told her this is what I want to do, and I want like a big explosion of blood when it splits and stuff like that. So I bought her a mannequin. I believe it was a torso piece of a mannequin. She cut it open, filled it with styrofoam, and then cut the styrofoam just so it's like filling the inside of the mannequin torso and head. And then basically she took an anatomy book, and then soldered the styrofoam to look like the inside of someone. And then she filled the stomach with intestines, and she painted it all. It looked beautiful, and she stuck a bunch of tubes through it on either side. So basically, she was pumping it with I believe, a pesticide sprayer, just so the blood would like shoot out when it opens. But there were too many tubes, so the blood just kind of trickled down. So I had to use a really caked visual distortion when I was coloring it, because you could see where the styrofoam was, the white sticking out. So instead, I made this insane color palette that I could put on that was just like really fuzzy and super red and vibrant, which also, I wanted to be attributed to the destruction of the video camera throughout the movie. I wanted things to visually get worse and worse and worse as the movie went along. Like this camera is also clinging to its life, like these characters.
Yeah, yeah, totally. No, and I would have had no idea that any of the distortion was for, like, because it looks so good and it feels so visceral and so intense. Did you guys record any like behind the scenes, like making of, while you guys did it? Because it sounds like an amazing movie.
We have some. We have a lot of audio coverage from the boom pole, which is there's a lot of gold in there. Um, we have some behind the scenes with the video, but like honestly, it was such a rushed shoot of those 4 days that we didn't get as much. Um, with my other VHS flicks, the Tad Nightingale trilogy, those have like tons and tons of behind the scenes because we're just goofing off the entire time while
Well,
also trying to, create like a through line in the chaos, which I feel like this movie is similar in that sense, where it gets like super chaotic from sequence to sequence, especially as it gets towards the end. And if I could find a through line in that chaos and not lose people, that's like something I have to capitalize on.
So how long was the post-production process to get it into like the the final cut?
It took a few months, and took like quite a while, maybe 6 months. But I wasn't working at it every day. Like when we shot the first 4 days, I went and shot Hunting Party, then I shot Brain Bucket, then I shot Worm Burner, and then I came back and finished the movie with the cops at the end and the Jim Lackey political advertisement at the beginning.
Well,
So it was like I was working on other stuff, so I couldn't like I had it kind of down, but then once I was thinking like, oh, I should, I have a possibility to get it into Unnamed Footage Fest. Then I started thinking like, um, sorry. Then I started thinking like, hey, that's I have a fire under my ass, and I got to get this movie done because it has a purpose now beyond just being something I made. Like it can also play festivals, which has been really exciting.
so how did you hear about Unnamed Footage Festival?
When I made Hunting Party in December 2023, Evan hit me up out of the blue and said, "Hey, if you have any more found footage movies, send them in and stuff like that." And then I became friends with Evan, and then I started connecting with like Russell and Terrell. Um, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll keep making these movies because I think I found a niche where I'm making like really goofy shot on video comedy from like SOV flicks of the 90s and 80s, which I idolize, and then also doing it with a found footage lens. So I think that that's like an original take because like there are found footage horror comedies, no doubt, but I think it's just the manner of how we shoot the movie and also the comedy that we're putting into it is more like a love letter to the SOV flicks that I cherish.
Oh, yeah, there's a definitely I haven't I want to see your other films. Worm Burner, right, is one of them,
Yeah, Worm Burner, yeah.
and
It's
tent. What am I looking for?
oh that's I have Hunting Party, Brain Bucket, and Worm Burner. Those are the other three movies.
Okay, yeah, because I can definitely like without even watching them, I can tell I can see your voice in it, and just the poster art and like it feels apparent, and I love this voice for you. So you're working on getting a grant to create a first like full feature length film?
Yeah, we're gonna find out, but we're trying to get 3 grants. Two for the writing process and then one for the actual film production. So I'll find that out in May 2026. In the meantime, I'm doing some more shorts. Right now, I'm doing a shot on video, but not found footage, because I wanted to also delve into actually doing a shot on video movie, like shooting it traditionally. Um, so I'm doing like a sci-fi horror comedy with my dog as the star because she's an older girl and I want to immortalize her on film. So that's like a big plan. That's what I'm doing right now, anyways. And I got some other stuff down the pipe, you know.
That sounds like the greatest project ever. I've always wanted to, make 80 movies with my dogs. I always try to write them into scripts and stuff. So so like overall making Bum, like what did you learn by the end of it that like you you had to like go through the process of making of to like to unlock that wisdom, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think go with your gut. Um, Lift your friends up with you, and well, I guess I knew that already, but I'll say go with your gut, and enough is never enough. There's always more.
if I were you, I think the dream is there like a dream human being to see Bum? Because I think if like Garth Brooks saw Bum, that would be very interesting,
I think so too. And
right?
I'd have to ask him, where are the bodies, Garth?
Well,
It's that guy's a serial killer, you know that?
do you have any questions for me about Toy Vlog Hunt? If you remember anything from a month ago?
Of course I do. How okay, so I feel like that movie also has some hilarious writing and through this character's kind of tirade or mental breakdown in the during his toy vlog hunt, which is not really the you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying. How did you get into that role? Because I also thought that your commitment was super deranged and infectious.
I did a lot of research. Spent way too much time on YouTube, and the YouTube algorithm feeding me annoying personalities and people
There's
that
lots.
I didn't like, and that are like wholly unlikable. Um, for the I was definitely inspired by like Mr. Beast's like hollow, dead-eyed smile. I wanted to like definitely try to infuse that into the character, and then sort of like the rhetoric and like the dialogue and stuff that he goes into. Um, it was like sort of like basically from like a personal experience. I got super, heavy into the Star Wars fandom, and technically, I still am, I'm in this shit for life. Um, but I was a big I'm a TLJ lover. I love The Last Jedi. So I had to sit through, I've seen like, a million thumbnails about how, it's the worst Star Wars movie ever made, and how, it made everything woke, and, all these horrible horrible things just for like being a movie. Um
Right.
and so one of my fandom friends had done a like analysis, basically sort of showing how some of the rhetoric used against the sequel trilogy originated on like these white nationalist message boards, and then the same messaging started filtering through YouTube, through certain people on YouTube with the same sort of messaging that the white nationalists were using, and then now we see it, that type of language in the United States, presidency, and in the in the government itself, calling stuff woke, and uh,
Right.
and so I wanted to create a villain who would disarm people because they're like so like desensitized to that language, and then ultimately catch them off guard, and like sort of I wanted to like simulate how like these people get away with like this corrosive thought, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like
exactly.
my idea behind like him being a killer and like not being caught and like seemingly just being able to like do this forever, you know?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a blast. And I think that your performance is so damn good. It's like it was
Thank you,
to
thank you.
me that was like the I don't know, you were just so damn good. And I think like intoxicating in how you were portraying this character.
Thank
Um, I also wanted to ask, what are you doing next?
Whoa, that's an interesting question. So right now we're working on I'm collaborating with some other filmmakers, and I'm doing an anthology film, and Toy Vlog Hunt is gonna be like reused as one piece of the anthology film, and it's gonna be it's gonna be a very unique and weird experimental film that we're working on. And then I've had so much so many people tell me that they want to spend more time with the character and like understand or like get some sort of insight into why he's the way he is. So
Yeah,
I'm in the writing stages of around 1 to 13 Toy Vlog Hunter feature films right now.
right on. I think that the sky's the limit really with that character. Um, and also I mean like with its commentary,
Yeah,
you know.
the dream is eventually he'll go head to head with Art the Clown. And we'll cross the worlds, and if Bruce Campbell
Hell
wants to
yeah.
get involved as Ash, I guess I'll consider it.
Yeah, that's worth considering, I'd say.
Yeah. So that's where I'm going, and I'm definitely gonna take you're one of my favorite letterboxed reviews, and you wanted more gore, and like after watching Bump,
I'm just
like
a gore guy, you know.
I don't think I'll ever get to Bum levels of gore. Um, but the gore in Toy Vlog Hunt was 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 me trying to do the most inexpensive gore possible and also covering up production mistakes. So the first time I did the kill, there was no kill. Like my original cut of this movie was trying to be like so extremely subtle about everything.
Yeah,
It was just a shot of like me standing with the toy, and then in the background there was like a turned over lamp, and you could see someone like laying on the floor by the lamp as the indication of like the kill. And my wife saw that and she was like, "This is horrible. This is the worst decision you've ever made in your life. You have to reshoot this kill."
yeah.
And then from the time when we got around to shooting the kill and originally shooting the footage of the toy hunt, Derek, my victim, they'd shaved their head and grown out like a giant beard.
Oh yeah. I've been there, dude. I've been there.
So immediately it was like, well, if he dies of asphyxiation, or if they die of asphyxiation with their head in a bag, then it'll totally cover up the shaved the not continuity of the way they
Right.
look. And then I just bought like a $10 bottle of blood from Amazon called I Can't Believe It's Not Blood. Um, and then on the night of, we just talk through doing what ended up in the movie.
Yeah, I think that it works out. It's an effective scene, especially when he I believe he coughs or something in the bag. And sorry, I don't know. Are we in spoiler talk still? Or
Yeah, we're in Spoilerville. Yeah.
okay,
That's the
yeah, yeah,
spoiler
yeah.
song. You heard it. Come on.
Right. So yeah, I think that part it's like, oh, I gotta he's not dead. Oh, I gotta go kill him. It's like so funny too.
Yeah,
Um,
that was all like almost a lot of it was done. Like a lot of the magic of that is totally the sound design by Derek, who's also the victim and also did the sound design for the movie.
did
So
he do the music as well, or
yep, they did the music.
oh, love the music.
They really added that extra voice into the movie that really sells it all the way. And then the cut of the movie, I showed it to like 100 people to like arrive at that cut where like it proceedingly I felt like I was just making the movie less and less subtle the more the more I edited it away and simplified it for
But
people.
I also think it's like more
It makes it creepier.
yeah, like it's more self-aware that way, I think. Like
Yeah.
it feels like more satirical.
Yeah. And then since I had like zero budget, like the only money I really spent was like $10 on blood, and I spent like $70 at toys that like, Derek ended up keeping most of them. Basically as payment for doing everything. Uh and I basically shot everything over the span of like 2 years, just getting
Oh,
things
really?
little by little. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The toy hunt was all done in one day, but everything else was like, I need more toys for the toy montage, so I would just get some more toys and add it little by little.
There were a lot of good toys there.
Yeah, and then there were like, I had a lot of like emotional things going on with my family. So there were some moments of the montage, which I don't know if people even read it, but like there's like real like pain behind the eyes that, is authentic, that I'm like, trying to hide for the camera, that I think really added to, I think it's like subliminal, throws in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was like a little extra added sadness to the sauce.
You got to use the pain, man. Well,
Thank you so much, Anthony. This has been a fantastic interview.
thanks
Um,
for having me on.
if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can find you on Instagram at DADDYDEATHBONE.
That's very true.
Is there anywhere else you want to direct the good people of the earth?
You can find me, Daddy Deathbone, on Instagram, Letterbox, Twitter, stuff like that. X, I guess now we'll say.
No, no, don't call it X. It's still Twitter. It's
It's
still
always
Twitter to
Twitter.
me, damn it.
Damn right.
Thank you so much. Uh, I have been Steven. This has been Anthony. And remember, kids, when you go out and do your own student journalism, maybe spend some time thinking about what sort of, appropriate questions you're going to ask to the homeless population. You know what I mean? Because if you play your cards wrong, you might get blood pissed in your face.
Motto of life.
Boom.
Hail Thunder. Hail Thunder.
Vundacast? Give it
Yeah.
up for Vundacast, man. What an adorable name.
You're listening to the Vundacast.
What's up, everybody? This is Jason David Frank, Green Ranger. You're listening to Vundacast.
You can find it at Vundacast, and I know they love Effie.
I'd like to close this out by urging everyone to go over to vundablog.com, and you'll see on all of our recent podcasts, and once I post this up there, there will be a link to D-Rock's Patreon account for ad infinitum.
Oh, why'd you start
So that
linking
you
my
can-
Patreon exactly when I stopped updating?
Oh no! Never mind!
You can also
No, I'm gonna update it soon. I am.
you
Because
can
Halloween-a-thon's almost over. I've been busy with Halloween-a-thon, so.
You
Sorry,
can
everybody.
also support the Ringing Rocks roller rink and their GoFundMe to improve their local facility. You can check us out at Vundacast on TikTok and on Twitter. And thank you for joining us on YouTube.
Subscribe to the Vundacast.